Okay, so the compound interest formula we have is A equals P times, in parentheses, 1 plus R over N, close the parentheses, raised to the NT. This is very important. I really hope you have the calculator I suggested, the TI-30XS. If you do, it makes entering this way easier. If you don't, I need you to add some parentheses in here to help you out around the N and the T. Otherwise, you most likely are going to get this wrong in your calculator. If you use my calculator, you do not need those parentheses. So we know what A is. That's the compound amount or future amount. P, we know what that is. That's our initial investment or our principal. R is still our interest rate, always as a decimal, and that's always annual. T, again, is time, always has to be in terms of years. So the only new variable we have is N. N, again, being that compounding period. So what number do I put for N? Well, that's what the next chart shows, is N is how many times a year it would be. So if it says it's compounded annually, that's once a year, N would be 1. Semi-annually, N would be 2. Quarterly, N would be 4. Monthly would be 12. Daily, again, we are using Banker's rule here. Remember, Banker's rule says that it's 360 days to a year, even though we know it's 365. We will be using 360 in this class. Okay, so what I did for you is I told you exactly what buttons you should push. I hope you write this down and take notes of this. These are the exact buttons that you should be pushing if you want to put this into your calculator. You enter the P number, parentheses, 1 plus, enter the R number, hit the fraction or division sign, enter the N, hit the right arrow if you use the fraction button to get out of it, close your parentheses, use the chevron, the little up arrow, it's called the caret as well, to get into the numerator, and then do N times T, then go ahead and hit enter. Make sure T is in the exponent. Be very careful with that. So let's go ahead and look at example 1 together. It says calculate the compound amount when $10,000 is deposited in an account, earning 8% interest compounded semi-annually for 4 years. Again, anytime you do a problem for me, you need to identify the variables, write the formula, plug in the numbers, and then use your calculator. So what do I see here? I know that this is a compound problem because it does want the compound amount. So we have A equals P times 1 plus R over N raised to the NT. I know that's going to be the formula I use because it's the compound interest formula. Now I need to identify my variables. That $10,000 there, that's my initial amount. 8% tells me that R is going to be 0.08. 8% is a decimal. Compounded semi-annually. Semi-annually means twice a year, so that's N equals 2. And then we have that it's going on for 4 years, so that's T equals 4. So now I've identified all 4 of my variables that I'm going to be using. I've also identified my formula, so I could plug in the numbers. I would have A equals P, which is 10,000, times 1 plus R, which is 0.08, divided by N, which was 2 for semi-annually, raised to the 2 for N, times T, which was 4 for 4 years. So this is exactly what I want to put into my calculator. I did for this first one give you a screenshot of exactly how it looked on my calculator and the exact buttons that I pushed. I want you to pay particular attention to this because you will not be able to see my calculator as I make these videos, but these are the exact buttons that I'm pushing. Always refer back to this problem to see which buttons to push. So when I put this in my calculator, it seems that I'm getting $13,685.69 when I round to the nearest cents. Again, make sure you are doing 2 decimal places when it's cents. Make sure you're putting the dollar sign. Make sure you put the comma where you need to be. Let's make sure this makes sense to us as well. I always want you to check your answer for reasonableness. I put $10,000 into an account and I let it sit for 4 years, so I know it should be a little bit more than $10,000, and it looks like $13,000 is a little bit more. It does seem realistic. It's not less money like $9,000, and it's not a ridiculous amount of money like $1 million. So this does meet, the answer does meet my request to make sure it's reasonable.